So we're going to do a deep dive on 5 practical AI uses for nonprofit fundraising. We'll talk a little bit about AI. There's a huge change in AI this week. We'll talk about that very briefly. It's sort of late breaking news. There's obviously a huge change in federal funding this week. We're not going to talk about it that much, but maybe we'll just say one thing on it right now because it's really important thing a lot of people are thinking of. If you're not familiar with this, the U.S. federal government under the Trump administration said, look, freeze on all federal grants, effective immediately. And a lot of organizations that are getting NIH funding or USAID funding were just caught off guard, and wow, a little bit of a panic right now, which is a reasonable feeling, right? So I would say there are 3 things I would think about if I was a heavily federally funded organization right now. One is I would start looking at diverse funding opportunities. I would look at foundations in particular. I think some foundations are going to really step in to fill some of the void. And I would obviously go to donors. So that's one, right? One is diversity of funding sources, both in grants and opportunities and otherwise. Second is, to the best of our knowledge, this is a temporary freeze and not a permanent change. And so the big thing here is panic, but don't freeze. And meaning don't stop working on the applications you're working on. Don't stop working on the funding you're seeking, and just be ready to be first in line when these things open back up, right? This is not a new permanence. This is a temporary thing, but as you can tell, the Trump administration likes to do things quickly. So the unfreeze will be quick, the freeze is quick, and things can be sort of sudden. The third is it's a good chance to look at your systems and think about how are we doing all of this efficiently as you have this very brief moment, as opposed to just sitting and waiting around, waiting for something else to happen. So just wanted to name that. And thinking about all the folks in grant world who are, just a little confused right now. So we'll talk more about that, later. Okay, diving back into AI and what we'll talk about this week, I want to do a quick note here, some housekeeping. This event is approved for 1.0 CFRE credits. Every week we get an email that says, wow, thank you. I'm now CFRE approved because I've come to all these webinars. The way you get sort of officially get credit here is at the end of the session, you make a note in the survey. We keep our own records. You also keep your records. So fundamentally, your records are the ones that you will submit to CFRE. We will back you up if you get audited. My guess is that 1 in 100 people gets audited. Here's the agenda for today. We'll do intros. We'll talk about how to think about AI in 2025, which is already really accelerating. We'll talk about the most effective AI tools. We'll use real life examples from all of your peers. And then we're going to talk about 5 practical AI uses that I strongly recommend. We're even going to demo one of them. And I promise that's going to be fun as well. So quick intros. Many of you I've gotten to meet in person, if not virtually. My name is Patrick. This is what I look like with a larger beard. Next to my wonderful co-founder, Jenny, who I got to see this weekend. Jenny is actually out in Seattle full-time. I'm currently in New York City. FreeWill across the board, many of you know this as well. Biggest estate planning company and biggest plan giving solution in the United States. Trusted by almost 2,000 nonprofits, including many of you. If you're a partner, feel free to shout it out in the chat. Just wanted to say a huge thank you and a happy 2025 to you all in particular, ranging all the way from folks like the United Way, the Red Cross, to much smaller organizations across the board. So very, very cool. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, others. This is what our team looks like. Totally virtual team all around the world. 11.3 billion raised to date, almost 2,000 nonprofit partners, over 4 centuries of combined fundraising expertise, and now 230 people, which is crazy to me. It's just wild. Okay, but last thing before I get started, we give away some of my favorite books every time. As we think about rapidly accelerating technology this week, we're going to give away a book called by Xixin Liu to 20 people as a gift. This is The 3-Body Problem. I read this years and years ago when it first came out as a big book. It has since become a Netflix series as well. It's a fascinating, deep, complex, interesting book. A bunch of you have read this. Arnie says the book was great. The next Netflix show is meh. I haven't watched the show. Mostly, I thought the book was so outstanding. I didn't want to ruin it. So great book. Really just wild, sort of thinking about technology in the future, et cetera. It's a fiction, if that's not obvious to folks. So make a note in the survey if you'd like a chance and tell us where to send it. And we'll do it. Okay, how's your week going? A lot of anxiety. I think a lot of rapid shifts in executive orders and other things are probably playing a role here. When we ask you about how confident you are about hitting your goals this year, a little slight uptick. Most of the survey was taken before some of the executive orders. We think the executive orders are not going to have a meaningful shift on 2025 funding, but we will keep an eye on that and help you out. All right, let's dive into AI in 2025. So AI is already becoming mainstream, as you know. In 2023, it was a shiny new toy. Everyone was like writing poems and limericks with it. It reminds me of the early internet. And I don't know if you all remember this. This is like, late 90s when everyone just got access to AOL. We didn't really know what to do with it yet, but everyone wanted to look up lyrics for songs that we always thought we knew, but we weren't sure. That was sort of 2023. We're like, AI seems cool. We have no idea what to do with it. 2024 is when we sort of said, this is a time for you to start taking AI seriously and that the most efficient teams will be incorporating it day to day. You're starting to see that happen. That happened in 2024. Really shift. 30% of nonprofits believe that AI boosted their revenue or fundraising in 2024. I mean, this is really meaningful. 30% said this. 2025, nearly 7 out of 10 fundraisers are leaning on AI already. One thing I said to you all 2 weeks ago, for those of you in the webinar then, is that what I said is that we expect more progress to be made every 3 months of 2025 than in all of 2024. There is an argument to be made that there has already been more progress in 2025, and it is currently January 28th, than all of 2024. Touch and go, but it's almost certainly the case that this is holding true. This accelerating change is happening. So always nice to be correct in a prediction. And with that, I want to make a quick note on DeepSeek. So this is a very last minute addition to this webinar. So we don't have a lot of slides behind it. Some of you have heard of DeepSeek, some of you haven't. What is DeepSeek? Most of you know about OpenAI and ChatGPT and Claude. DeepSeek is an additional AI model that was just released, I think, last week. It's Chinese-based as opposed to American-based as the other frontier models are. And it's outperforming some of the GPT models. Why is this interesting? It was trained on roughly 1/500th of the cost of OpenAI. It is an enormous upgrade in terms of AI efficiency and AI speed. And so it's a huge technological leap forward in AI training models. We won't go into too much of the sort of technical reasons for this. What does it mean? It means that AI is likely to be faster, better, cheaper, earlier than we thought. We'll talk a little bit in a moment about AI energy usage. This is actually an enormous win for people that are thinking about the energy uses of AI. This model was trained on roughly 1,000th of the energy that the first or some of the big ChatGPT models were trained on. And so suddenly, like this energy efficiency world is coming up very quickly, and it's really, really interesting. All right, so that's a very quick aside on DeepSeek. We'll mention it again briefly later. But when we think about AI adoption, this is one of the fastest adopted technologies in the history of the world. So you can see here in 2023 and 2024, every age group is using it considerably, right? You see how big this regularly used for work, regularly used for out of work, have tried at least once. Virtually everyone has tried AI at least once, including baby boomers, including Gen Xers, including millennials, and certainly including Gen Z. So this has just become normalized very quickly. There are not big gaps by age, which oftentimes people think about when they think about new technology. Not the case here. Really, really important. AI outshines human experts, right? So it's not just better than an eighth grader. It is continuously outperforming experts in the field. There's a bunch of research on outperforming radiologists, which is really interesting. A study in September of 2024 explored if AI tools are able to come up with exciting research ideas compared to human experts. Researchers then compiled these from 49 human experts, right? Not sort of, just folks like us, but the best in the field across 36 institutions, and then compare that to ideas generated by an AI model. The ideas were then anonymized and standardized for consistency, so you couldn't tell which was which, and then evaluated by a group of other experts in what's called a blind review process. The result is that the ideas generated by AI were rated significantly higher in terms of novelty and excitement compared to human expert generated ideas. I mean, this is a really big leap. In previous webinars, we talked to you about how the business ideas from AI were ranked higher than the business ideas coming from Wharton MBA students. Again, Wharton, for those of you that don't know, business school at the University of Pennsylvania, uh, commonly thought to be a top 3 business school in the United States and probably a top 5 in the world. Very hard to get into, and still AI is outperforming the sort of best and the brightest students there. How do we explain AI's popularity? Nonprofits are adopting AI faster than the private sector, with 58% using AI compared to 47% of B2C businesses. Those are businesses selling to consumers. The reason that we believe it's adopting at such a high rate is it's a perfect case for a lot of nonprofit work. A lot of what we do is communication. A lot of it is written. MIT research shows that AI increases productivity, quality of work, and happiness in work. So these are the things we want. We want to be better at our job. We want to be faster at our job, and we want to be happier doing the job. And these 3 components are quite important. So we'll go from there. The MIT research, for those of you that want to wonk out for a moment, here's what it looks like pre and post treatment. Job satisfaction rates are higher, among other things as well. Now you can see this steady incline, right? How many of you use AI in some form of your work? March 2023 was less than 2 years ago, right? Less than 2 years ago. And at that point, 11% of you all were using AI in some form of your work. That jumped to 31% in July. It jumped to 50% roughly a year ago today, and 72% as of roughly this week. So you can, I mean, this is just explosive. The email trend, the internet trend, the automobile trend, the electricity trend was all much slower than what we see today. And so you can only imagine this continuing to go up. Have we ever used an AI chatbot in your personal life? Well, 77% of you said yes. This is a 10% leap in only 3 months. I mean, just to give you an idea here, you see those numbers in February, 34% in March of 2023. So just enormous shifts, and this is here to stay. We see absolutely no signs of this reverting. If anything, AI is more useful week over week. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your proficiency with AI? Well, a lot of you say a 3. No one says I'm very experienced, very small number, but also relatively few say I have no experience. So people are really in this middle ground where we sort of know what to do, but we're not always sure the best cases to use it for, which is why we put, as a FreeWill team, as me, as my colleague Phoebe, who put a lot of work into this, we're really trying to help you move from 2s and 3s to 4s and 5s. So you can say, wow, I'm really comfortable using this in ways that make my job a lot better, that make me happier, and make me a lot more efficient. We mentioned it increases our productivity and happiness, and of course allows us to make, oil paintings of dogs juggling while surfing in less than a minute, which is pretty fun. According to Hewlett-Packard's 2024 Work Relationship Index, 73% of workers who use AI feel that it makes their job easier. 6 in 10, it plays a key role in improving their work-life balance. This is really important, right? You all are working so hard. Some of you are working late into the evening, finalizing a report, finalizing a grant, getting those last emails out to major donors. And we'd just love to get you some hours back, right? It's really, how great would it be if we could take 2 hours off, your workday and put them right into dinner with your family or whatever job, whatever hobby you love, et cetera, et cetera. Workers who use AI are now 11 points happier with their relationship with work than their colleagues that don't. Now, some of this might be that, hey, people that are curious are just generally happier. People that are curious are using AI more. But I mean, these are really striking numbers, really, really striking numbers. Now, okay, that's how we feel about it as a fundraising community. What the heck do donors think? By the way, just continual shout out to Phoebe for the images you're going to see today. Are those lemurs or ferrets? Someone help me out. I actually don't know what kind of animal that is. Those are meerkats. Everyone says meerkats. Wow. Surprising number of meerkat experts, although some people don't know how to spell meerkat. I assume there's a K in it and not a C. So a 2024 study on AI and donor perceptions found that 80% of donors who gave over $50,000 annually reported being very familiar with AI, right? So this group is in the know. Donors who rated themselves very familiar with AI also reported a higher comfort level across various nonprofit applications. So your wealthier donors are more comfortable and more interested in using AI. That's a good sign. A separate study out of the United Kingdom showed that 70% of donors say a lot or some effort should be made to make AI accessible to different sizes of charities. So effectively, what donors want is more efficiency using AI to have better outcomes on the products that you're working. Um, I got scolded for correcting someone else's spelling, so I apologize for that in the chat. Um, so apologies to folks who felt targeted by me correcting their spelling. All right, so coming back to this, um, what do donors ask folks? What do they want nonprofits to be using? Well, a lot of it's things like faster disaster response, helping more people. There's a lot of scale opportunities with AI, um, being more efficient, making more informed decisions, personalizing communications, managing volunteers better. All these things are people actually asking for you to do using AI, and this can be a pretty cool opportunity. I want to make a quick note on AI energy usage because occasionally after these sessions, we get a lot of comments on this. AI energy usage is an incredibly important discussion area. Just to give you an idea, right now, as of 2 weeks ago, a ChatGPT query used about 10 times the energy that a single Google search used, which obviously is a lot less than driving a car somewhere, what maybe. So the big question here is, and obviously these data centers take a lot of, the training models are very computationally intensive and require a lot of energy. This is why we think that DeepSeek advancement could be an enormous shift for energy usage because it was literally using 2 orders of magnitude or 3 orders of magnitude less energy for the same outcomes, right? So a quick note here. The other thing to know is like the question is compared to what? Right? Compared to what is the energy usage heavy? And so for something like ChatGPT, which again is not as energy efficient as something like DeepSeek, you can see the difference between how much CO2 is created compared to one human writing the same page. So if you're sitting there, right, using your laptop for an hour writing a page compared to generating it in minutes, it's actually considerably more energy usage. So we have to sort of balance all these things. This is not to dismiss any energy fears um, around AI, but it is important to sort of say, okay, is it a thing we were going to do anyway? And if so, it may actually be a big net decrease. If it's tons of things we were going to do, but not do it anyway, then it may be a net energy increase. And so just to keep this in mind as you think about this, we want to help you sort of develop your sophisticated understanding and make all your own decisions and opinions here. All right, let's come back to AI for fundraising. So there are some very beginner-friendly AI tools. Obviously, Claude and ChatGPT, most of you know about these. We're not going to go in depth in them the way we would a year ago when many of you were not familiar. They're easy to use. They're message-style chat interfaces. They're great for brainstorming ideas, drafting content, editing text. They're perfect for things like donor communications, email revisions, and administrative tasks, right? So these can be very, very helpful. It's like having a PhD level assistant at your fingertips at all times. Things like very clear instructions and context matter. And there are free and paid versions. The paid versions are roughly $20 a month. What are some other tools you might like? So most of these, by the way, have some free version, but are often paid where I have no relationship with any of them. But as those of you that are thinking about how to improve, you might want to check this out and you may want to be spending money on some of them. So fireflies.ai is an AI note taker that can record, transcribe, and summarize your meetings. It will always be obvious to the other people in the session that it's being recorded. So, but this can be quite useful. It works across various meeting platforms and claims to transcribe with 90% accuracy. So having an AI note taker is something we're seeing a lot more of across the board. Free versions are available. Paid subscriptions are $18 a month per user. Gamma. Gamma is a totally different tool. This can help create presentations, web pages, and documents to present ideas with AI. So it create actual Google Docs or Word docs that may be useful to you, something to check out. You can do this in multiple languages, offers different theme options, free and paid versions available. And then Google Notebook LM, this is one of my favorite tools. It's a great party trick, to be honest, but it also has some meaningful uses. It's an AI-powered research and writing assistant that can also turn written text into a podcast. Now, what that doesn't mean is it turns written text into just reading the text out loud. Instead, there are two voices, a male and a female voice, and I think they have names. I'm not sure if they do. And they'll say, we're here to discuss the Red Cross's annual report. And, yeah, great topic. And it'll sort of go back in this very podcast style. And so it's an interesting way to digest information that you actually want to listen to in that style as opposed to read in a traditional document. Not perfect, but actually getting better quite quickly and very, very, very interesting. So those of you that have tried it said it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Um, we also have FreeWill tools that we have for free available, no cost at all. 37% of you have already used Willy or Sophie. I mean, this is remarkable, right? 37% of you use these tools. That's more than a year ago you had used any AI at all. What is Willy? I got to build the first version of Willy, so I'm very proud of it. It's a non-profit fundraising buddy, released in July of 23, can generate a lot of content that's most relevant to you, has already been used by thousands of nonprofits, again, totally free. It combines the best AI with a lot of research-backed best practices to deliver best-in-class content in seconds. So super helpful. People write love notes to Willy all the time. We have an even more advanced version that we've put in the tools for our partners. So if you're a FreeWill partner, please make sure to check out William, which we think is Willy's older brother, knowing that no parent would name kids William and Willy back to back, but just stick with us for the theme. What does it do? Personalized fundraising emails, personalized direct mail copy, donor thank you notes, permanent, what we call permanent giving guide. We won't talk about that too much. One of the most important pieces of content you can make in modern fundraising. Compelling smart giving messages for end of year. What we're seeing, just we won't get into this too much, but there's a huge rush towards tax advantage giving like stock gifts and QCDs and donor advised funds, and a gradual decline in small dollar cash gifts. And so as the world shifts, we're shifting with it, and we'll help you shift with it, and obviously a lot more. You can give it a try at any point at willy.freewill.com. There's a world where if everyone goes to it now, it's going to crash. Just go back later today. It usually can't handle 1,000 people joining in the same 60 seconds. And then Sophie is a super interesting tool that my colleague Chris led on. So Sophie is basically Willy, but for faith-based organizations and houses of worship. Again, 100% free, built for all Christian denominations and the main branches of Judaism. We are looking to expand that over time to other religious denominations and sects as well. Give that a try, Sophie at freewill.com. Sophie is, by the way, it's based on the Hebrew word for knowledge, which is very cool. What does this do? It can do pulpit announcements. It can do bulletin inserts. It can do ideas for sermons. It can do Bible study questions, appeals for the high holy days in Judaism, e-newsletter articles, social media posts, etc. I mean, it's just sort of wild that all this stuff is possible. And, we talked to a lot of pastors who are just suddenly, their lives are a lot better because instead of trying to toil over the same sermon, they can get their big ideas out there and then write the whole thing in a lot shorter time. Really, really, really interesting. So some of you also ask, well, what kind of internal documents do we need for AI usage? We generally think you don't absolutely need one, but we have put together a sample AI policy document, and there are templates on our website that you can use to download this and make it your own. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we have intros. And the important part of the intros here is we're really balancing. We need to use technology to maximize our impact for the mission, and we're respecting the rights and dignity of all individuals. Two, ethical principles for AI use. We want to use in a way that's fair and transparent and non-discriminatory. There's a lot of data privacy. We won't talk about that right now. We'll dig into it a little bit later. Systems transparency. So we're gonna be clear when we're using AI systems. We'll take the following steps with AI content. We recommend things that are anything written with AI is reviewed by a human before it's made public. When it's not possible, it should be labeled as such. Any photorealistic images created by AI should be labeled as such. I honestly don't think you need to do this if it's a dog juggling while surfing. That will be pretty obvious. Accountability, et cetera, and so forth. So this is all here for you. We're not going to read it all out, but just know that if you need to adapt this for your own organization, it will take you 10 minutes, and hopefully it will be quite useful. Again, awareness, evaluation, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Diving in here, back on this transparency issue, 86% of donors consider transparency very or somewhat important. And if you choose to inform supporters that your team is using AI, here's some very, very good language. Sometimes the Red Cross, the museum, the animal shelter uses artificial intelligence alongside human expertise in content generation to be maximally efficient and make the most impact at the lowest cost, right? This is exactly what your donors want you to do. More impact, less cost across the board. All right, we asked you how many of you are using AI, and we wanted to share this. Thank you so much for those of you that provided these examples. We're going to highlight a couple of really interesting things. First person uses ChatGPT as a shortcut to improve writing. It's a great editor, etc. Designing plans for multi-year projects. This is a really great use case, right? A lot of people think, oh, I can flesh out an email, but I can't say, hey, here are the things I want to achieve over the next 5 years. Help me come up with a plan over the course of those 5 years for implementing it. This is really, really helpful. To help craft stewardship emails, plan outreaches, and then I love this last bit, helping with tough responses. So a donor writes back and said, why are you so focused on conservation or, climate? You really should just focus on protecting forests. Or something that's just sort of a challenging note and it's going to weigh on you mentally. And you know you're doing the right thing, but now you've got to answer the question. AI is a great way to sort of get the first draft off your plate and really takes a lot of mental burden away from it. So really, really helpful. Other opportunities here, creative support. So this person uses ChatGPT for poems for graduation and for greeting cards, writing greeting cards, and poems for greeting cards. A lot of help design graphics, which I think is something that more people will be using over the next few years. Creating first drafts of PowerPoints. Not a lot of people are using it for PowerPoints or policy briefs, and then testing it in various formats. So these are all quite helpful. Other examples I love, reducing word counts. So you say, look, I've got this, but now I need it in a new place, and it needs to be half as long. Jump-starting thank you notes, mostly for rewriting and refining narrative, also to analyze trends and themes and survey results with open-ended questions. We'll get back to this in a moment. Analyzing trends and themes and survey results with open-ended questions is an incredibly good use. It will save you so much time, and it's a great opportunity. To help drafting letters to Legacy Society members, this is another great use case, putting legal jargon in layman's terms. So when we are dealing with complex issues, AI is very good at putting them in 8th grade terms or 5th grade terms or 12th grade terms. I do this a lot in some of our work as well. It's incredibly helpful to say, help me explain the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act to a 10th grader. And it can be quite useful. Other things we're doing, obviously boosting efficiency, improving comms with donors, a better informed strategy, sparking creativity, streamlining your workload, all of these things across the board. Now I want to get into a couple of things that I think you're probably not using it for, but I personally want to strongly suggest you start doing this and give it a shot. So the first one, someone's already doing it, and so we love you for that. Also, again, great image here. Better donor surveys. So it can help you write better surveys in the first place, but then it can conduct qualitative analysis of donor surveys and create custom follow-ups. So the first thing we're doing is we're uploading the survey responses. Often I would really take out personal information here, but you can upload the responses and use Claude to begin analysis, right? So you say, great, what are the major themes that people are thinking about? And what are the main trends? And what are some unique ideas? By the way, is there anything particularly negative? Hey, pull that out and pull the most positive, and maybe even help me draft a response on the negative ones. Then once we have it, right, we say, okay, great, this is, Mark and Lisa's response. And they gave me all this thoughtful content. I'm going to write them a very thoughtful thank you note using all of their responses and potentially some information about our organization to talk about how we're addressing that in particular. And this can be really, really helpful. 2, okay, I'm going to demo this, and maybe it's going to go terrible, but I really think this is a great stewardship opportunity. A lot of you are always asking, excuse me, a lot of you are always asking, how do we bring donors closer to our organization? How do we make them care more? And one idea that I really like is using OpenAI's GPT to design a virtual character that helps people form a memorable connection to your mission. So if you've done this already, please let me know in the chat. Start small by brainstorming a persona that embodies your organization. And older organizations with rich histories might want to think about a founder. If you have a founder of your college, right, and there's some writing available that you can upload into GPT to sort of help cultivate this personality. If there are historical figures, right, someone who's at the Model T Museum, think about corresponding with Henry Ford and being able to engage with him. You can train AI in their writings and speeches or other research. Museums could create period characters, someone or something representing a historical figure or era in your museum, right? What would it be like to sort of exchange communication with Martin Luther King, right? Or even Helen of Troy, right? Thinking about all of these components. A zoo or a wildlife conservation center could build an AI persona of a zoo animal. We know a lot about what giraffes do. It would be great to sort of ask questions of a giraffe, and that would bring you a lot closer to the organization. A tiger who can talk about its habitat, diet, and conservation efforts for an organization. And this is a really memorable way, right? We know that interactivity creates much stronger bonds and much stronger connections in the brain than just reading something. So I want to show you for a moment. I think this might go absolutely terribly, but we're going to give this a shot, right? So what did I do in about 3.5 minutes yesterday? I pretended that I was a fundraiser at the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. So those of you know Chesapeake Bay in Greater Maryland area, maybe some of you are even on the call from this. Again, we didn't ask your permission, so this isn't going anywhere outside this call. But just to give you a sense of it, and Virginia. Sorry, Ben. Ben says and Virginia. It's Chesapeake Bay is Maryland and Virginia. If it's in Delaware too, I apologize to Delaware. But my geography is not perfect here. And what we did is we basically created this character called Henry the Great Blue Heron of the Chesapeake Bay. I first tried to figure out which animals are in the Chesapeake Bay, and then we personified one, and we gave it a bunch of instructions on the back end. So we said, okay, let's talk about let's ask Henry how his day is. Let's try this. It's gonna work. Here we go. And now, hopefully you can read this. Let's see. All right, there's a little error. Let's see if we can make this happen. All right, great. So now Henry's talking to me. His day has been great. The sunrise over the Chesapeake Bay was particularly dazzling today. A symphony of pinks and oranges that can make a crab blush. This is great. I caught a few fish for breakfast, dodged a curious otter, even spotted an osprey showing off his flying skills. How's your day? Are you here to learn more about the bay or perhaps looking at ways to make a splash and helping out? Great heron puns, right? I'm mostly working inside today, but would love to get to the bay soon. What are the best things I should look for? And I'm spelling things wrong, as you can tell, but it doesn't matter because it will make the conversation still work well. And then Henry says, nothing beats a trip to the bay. When you get there, here's a couple of things, et cetera, underwater marvels. While you're out, maybe think about how to lend a hand to keep the bay thriving. You can see it here, whether it's picking up litter, planting some native grass, or even supporting oyster restoration projects, et cetera. When you make it down here, let me know. Thanks so much. You know, I'll be there on Saturday and we'll look for you. And says, great. Saturday's a great day to visit. I'll keep an eye out for my favorite perch near the marsh. If you see a tall blue gray bird standing majestically, or maybe awkwardly trying to balance on a leg, that's me. So if you have any tips, et cetera. So how cool is this? So how did this come to be? I said, look, I basically went in. If you have the paid version of ChatGPT, which is only $20 a month, so your organization should pay for it for you. I said, look, I'm a fundraiser at CBF. I'd like you to make a character that is Henry the Blue Heron. AI even made the image for me. And then I said, look, be friendly and warm. First I said, be ready to talk to kids, donors, or volunteers. Then it said, AI can't create this because we don't do things that target children. I was like, okay, that's good. So we took out the kids component. We said, support donors and volunteers, gently suggest ways to help, et cetera. And be a warm and friendly experience. And you can tell, like, everyone just likes Chesapeake Bay more now that we've had a conversation with a blue heron. So keep that in mind, think about it, play around with it across the board. We think this is a really cool opportunity to get closer. It's not like the heron is then going to pitch you on giving Apple stock, but it's a good way, someone that's clicked on that and used it, following up with those people a week later, really, really good opportunity. So if anyone's ever done anything like this, let me know. I think generally it's a really big opportunity to move from sort of one-dimensional communication to interactivity. I think it's just generally going to be very strong. So hope that's helpful. Let me know what you think of that in the chat if you don't mind. And obviously this is a more memorable way to do things. So very cool. Robin says, do we suggest linking to the character on the website? Maybe. I would think about emailing it first and getting some feedback there. But again, I don't have any specific Chesapeake Bay expertise, as you can probably tell, because I didn't even know what states it's in. And literally that took me less than 5 minutes. And so if I was there, I would spend more time uploading the latest research, uploading more about the programs that CBF is doing, maybe giving more personality quirks to the Heron. But honestly, it's pretty great already. And so just imagine what you could do there across the board. Human services, um, you know, Camilla says it might not work for orgs in human services. That may be true, right? But you might want to think about sort of a fun expert that can answer all the questions about human services and create it in a really way. Um, so good questions. In-house gift tutoring. So one of the most important things for AI, and those of you that have kids, I'd be curious if you're trying this at all. Make non-cash gifts asks easier for everyone in little to no time. Build an AI tutor tailored to your team, gift officers to volunteers, board members, and anyone in between. So how do we tutor folks? The tutor can focus on helping people ask for non-cash gifts like stocks, QCDs, DAOs, and crypto. We know these are the most important gifts to be asking about, and we know sometimes people get nervous about asking for them. So this gives your team a chance to practice, to communicate, to get really good at asking, to have a sort of no judgment tutor all the time. It can help speed up onboarding and training, especially and be accessible at any point. Why do we think this works? The research shows there's not a lot of research on upskilling nonprofit fundraisers, you can probably imagine. But the research shows that students with access to an AI tutor achieve more than twice the learning gains compared to those in an active learning classroom. So already a good classroom, according to a Harvard study. Students also got those gains in half the time. So really impressive. AI tutors improve student outcomes, also enhance human tutor effectiveness. So if you are a human helping out, teaching someone onboarding, you can then follow up with a bot to ask all these questions. A separate Stanford study, my alma mater, found that students working with an AI-assisted tutors achieved mastery more often than those without AI assistance. So really, really, really helpful. A great asset. I mean, look, especially in a remote environment, it's hard on younger workers and new workers to figure stuff out. And so if you have an always on AI tutor that they can always have open on second screen and say, what should I be doing now? How should I be thinking about this? It can be a really long way. Some of you have also, by the way, played with AI, particularly ChatGPT. I think Claude has this as well. Their voice mechanic. So you can basically put it in voice mode. And I'll do this once in a while when I'm driving. Let's say I'm driving to a new place, right? Driving to a new neighborhood in New York City. That's not really true. We don't drive to neighborhoods in New York City. Driving to, somewhere in Rhode Island that I don't know anything about. I can put GPT in voice mode. And while I'm driving, just have a conversation with it about the history of that area or anything I should know about the area on the way. It's really interesting. Another good way to have this is if you're driving, again, heads up only. Don't be touching your screen while you're driving to a donor and just have a conversation with the AI. What should I be thinking about? What are the most important points? If I get nervous, what should I do? Things like that. Really, really cool. All right. So that's three, right? These are all things that I would just love for you to try. And I think you probably haven't thought about before in many cases, but some of you have as well. So case 4, personalized annual reports. Use your annual report to strengthen donor relationships. So many of you are putting so much time and effort and graphic design and copywriting into your reports, and then no one's reading them straight through. It's just true. In fact, most of your employees don't read them straight through. That's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to create custom summaries for major donors that highlight their impact and tailor these summaries based on previous giving history and past correspondence. Include personal touches to show appreciation and reinforce connection to the mission. So what I mean by this is this, right? So again, I just hung out with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation website for a little bit this week in order to prep this. So we're pretending that we're CBF fundraisers here. Again, I don't know if anyone's at CBF on the call, but apologies. This is all sort of hypothetical. So I upload the annual report that just came out, 2024 annual report. And I said, please make an executive summary for John and Mary Smith, who have been donors for the past 12 years and recently gave a $35,000 stock gift to support our efforts to stop pollution in the Bay. Katie says, I love that you say please. I have a hard time being rude to AI. I also say thank you a lot. So I'd be curious if other people have the same experience. And so, presumably we might also have another paragraph information on John and Mary. And so what does it come up with? Dear John and Mary, thank you for over 12 years of generosity. Your steadfast support for our mission to protect and restore the Bay has been transformative, et cetera. Your recent gift, et cetera. The difference you've made. And now it says, okay, great. On page 10, go to page 10. Your gift directly supports efforts to address industrial pollution, et cetera, et cetera. With your help, we've secured bipartisan legislation, et cetera, et cetera. Page 10. Oh, page 8, restoring natural habitats. We've also been able to do this thanks to your generosity. Oh, and page 12, your support strengthens advocacy work, such as championing the Whole Watershed Act. And now instead of getting this beautiful but still generic annual report in the mail, you get this clipped to the annual report in the mail for only an extra 3 minutes of work and an extra 50 cents in printing or whatever in a paper clip. And suddenly you have this guided approach that feels like a really thoughtful system. And almost all of you have annual reports. It's a great avenue for for uh, for cultivating these donors. So again, this is a little bit more looking ahead, learn more about the results of your gift, summary with gratitude, et cetera. So this is just a great thing to staple or clip onto the top of an annual report. And you can just imagine those people are going to give you significantly more last year because you've tied the thing they most want to do in the world with direct impact and you've highlighted it. And so they feel your gratitude. They also feel the specificity of the actions that your organization has taken. And now we're going to give a lot more next year. So please do that. All right. Use case 5, last before we wrap up some notes here. Extreme stewardship. Ask your donors why they gave the organization, what parts of the mission matter most to them. Zero in on what your donors care about most, and then use AI to tailor your messaging. So your major donors should have sort of constant custom messaging. Start by asking donors something like, what inspired you to give? And then use those answers to craft appeals in the future that feel specific and meaningful to each donor. Things like Willie and Sophie can help here. Also things like Claude and ChatGPT, but it's incredibly valuable here. All right, we have some Q&A. And so we're going to go through a couple of these, but these are some of the most common questions we got from you. How is data protected? So look, there's 2 avenues here. If you're using a free version, do not enter personal data into the tools. Do not do that. On something like GPT, for the advanced version, you can specifically tag, do not maintain any of this information and do not use it to train future models. And then you will basically be secure in the way that you could put this information in a Google spreadsheet and not feel like it's getting ripped to the cloud. So, but basically on those free options, don't do any of that, right? So just make sure you're on the same page there. How do we get board and staff to buy in? The biggest thing is, using AI is not a goal. Figure out what the board and the staff's most important goals are, and then try to make some small progress on it relatively quickly using AI instead of trying to have this big ideological conversation. How do we do data analysis with AI to protect data for confidentiality and security? Same thing we just talked about, so keep on that. Will grant funders know that a grant has been written with AI? And if so, will it be a good source document for funding? Yes. So we have talked to a lot of grant funders, and they are happy to have folks use AI. The most important thing is that humans are saying all of this is true, and everything we propose we're going to do, we're going to do, right? It's most important is the impact you're gonna carry forward, and not the sweat and tears that goes into writing. And how do we ensure that use of AI in fundraising does not inadvertently create bias or lead to harmful fundraising campaigns? Great question. You really got to be human reviewing this. And a lot of the models have anti-bias weighting built in. So that's that. Okay, a couple of things that are really important before we wrap up for the day. First of all, thank you everyone for your patience on an inordinate amount of information. But as you can tell, the world is changing so quickly on this that we wanted to get some of these new ideas into your hands as you start to think about the year and start to do things like, now we have a talking otter and now we're stewarding our donors a lot better, et cetera, et cetera. So first things first, my colleague Phoebe, thank you Phoebe so much. Just big shout out to Phoebe for all her work here, is dropping a survey in the chat. First thing in the survey is, would you like a copy of this book? And if so, where can we send it? So make a note if you would like it, et cetera, et cetera. There are a couple other things happening in the survey, so please do that as well. On Thursday, we are going to do a deep dive, an in-depth look for Grant Assistant. So what is Grant Assistant? Grant Assistant, I think, is some of the most impressive technology to come onto the fundraising scene in years and years and years. What it can do is help you reply to grants in a tiny fraction of the time. And then just as excitingly, we are about to release, and we will chat a little bit about new functionality we call Discover. What does Discover do? It uses AI to find the grant opportunities that you are most likely to win. So it doesn't just sort of filter based on health and in California and over $50,000. It uses deep knowledge about your organization and deep knowledge about foundations and other funding opportunities to match the ideal funding possibilities for you. It is wild and magic. Please come hang out with us on Thursday. Um, you make a note in the survey if you would like a invitation there. Thursday at noon Eastern. It is just come. It's so great. I promise you will be wowed and that you will also enjoy being there. We can also talk a little bit more about what to do in a funding grant landscape. So if that's something you're thinking about, come and we'll talk about that on Thursday. Yes. So please, if you're looking to register for that, that is in the survey. So go up to the chat and drop a note. Secondly, as you can tell, we put a ton of effort into making you smarter. We would like your help on something in particular. We are close to wrapping up FreeWill's 2025 stock giving report. But to make sure the findings are accurate, we're trying to get 150 more responses by the end of today. So thank you, Kimberly, who just said she did it. Your responses are a huge help. We will send the report out to everyone who participates. So please do it, or forward it to the person at your organization that actually knows the answers if it's not you. And so after you fill out that brief survey, which Phoebe dropped in, we would love for you to fill this out as well. I think Phoebe's going to drop a second link in the chat. Thank you so much. I think Phoebe, let me know if that goes in there. But we will ask that for you. It will also be in the follow-up email. So if you can take a moment to do that, that will be so helpful to us. So look for our follow-up email with the stock report. It's just going to make all of us smarter, and we will be delighted to bring that to you with sort of the overall trends and a bunch of tips on how to get more stock giving. So thank you for that. Okay, as we wrap up, great. So the survey link is in there. And then also, if you fill out the survey, we will make sure to get you the slides. So that's very important. Please fill those out. Phoebe, is that survey link in the chat? 5 to 7 minutes? Yeah, so just click on it as well. And you will also get, in the survey, you can RSVP for the Thursday Grant Assistant webinar. Sorry, getting a lot of questions here. In 2 weeks, on February 11th, we are going to do a deep dive on the results from the stock report, which we are already beginning to analyze, but you will be really helpful if you fill it out. So come check that out. Stock giving is potentially among the 2 or 3 most important types of giving going into 2025, with tax law changes, with changes in the economy, with the rising stock market, et cetera. So if you are involved in any sort of annual giving or major giving fundraising, this is the time to come. And also feel free to bring some coworkers if you like. And then if you have any questions or you have any complaints, feel free to send those my way at patrick@freewill.com, or you have any thoughts at all. Love hearing from folks. And then lastly, I think that's it. I just want to say a huge thank you for joining. We know that, look, it's a rapidly changing, sort of scary world right now, right? There's just a lot going on. And so it means a lot to us that you're coming and obviously that you're learning from this, but we're being able to teach each other in the chat and the communication as we go forward. And it's going to be a big year, and we're really rooting for all of you. And if there's anything else we need to help, just let us know. But we love all the work you're doing. We love supporting you, and it just means a lot that you choose to spend an hour with us. So thank you very much. See most of you on Thursday and beyond. And thanks again for all your help with the research. It really just helps move the whole industry forward, and we appreciate it. So have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you all very soon.